one of the things that we saw in our research that only 38% of women see themselves really rising to at the top in their company. You know, of the 62% that said they didn't see themselves, part of it was lack of opportunities, part of it was a concern about, you know, the time that it would require and what would require them to give up on their personal for their family. And part of it is that they didn't think they'd be with any company long enough to actually rise through the ranks. So I'm curious, because you've spent so much time talking to women in research for your book, you know, were women, comfortable opening up about some of their successes and challenges, and what were some of the obstacles that you discovered or you saw that women were facing?
I found in my research the exact same things you're mentioning. And I think for corporate women, the issues are really the same around promotion, not asking for raises, or asking and being denied and then taking it personally. All the stuff that you guys have talked about. But what I do think is a brighter day is dawning. Because what I've seen is that as more women do things like this, as technology facilitates us coming together to share information, and as there are more women at the top increasingly of these organizations, women are increasingly becoming each other's strategic advisors. We are banding together for success rather. So what we're doing is we're helping each other script those difficult conversations. If you have to go in and ask for a raise and you've never done it before, you talk to the woman next to you who has done it. You learn from her. So women are becoming each other's strategic advisors. They're giving each other the tips and the pointers that they need to succeed because they've been there, because they understand the same issues. I think the other thing that's interesting, though, is what's going on around entrepreneurial women, because that's where, you know, the issues get slightly different. Because we no longer, most corporations now have very clear laws against sexism or blatant sexism. But when a woman is going to raise money for her company, that's where it gets interesting. So I've heard a lot of women who have launched their own firms, and as we all know, women are launching their own firms at almost twice the rate of men these days, at all levels and all ages. So what do you do when you walk into a room and a funder asks you, what does your husband do? What does your boyfriend do? You know, are you going to have children the next day? I think the next real hurdle is for female entrepreneurs. But I think, again, the way women are solving some of those problems is really by turning to each other for strategic tips, if not investments.
Well, you just, it was a great segue into the next topic, which one of the other themes we saw, particularly around Gen Y women in our survey, is that they were more likely to have a mentor than some of the boomer women, and really didn't see the same hurdles in terms of women helping women. In fact, they saw that the women, you know, in their network, in their company, were actually resources to help them move forward. So I'm curious, Leah, because Mary Claire is read by such a large population of Gen Y women, you know, do you feel that sense of optimism from your readers? Are they seeing other women as a resource and as really helping them move to that next step forward?
I do. I think in general there's a more open culture of talking about these things. You know, for example, I came up in, you know, a workplace where women just didn't talk about their careers in the way that they talk about them now. And I think Lean In, for example, has opened a lot of these kinds of conversations. They're almost cool. These are cool conversations to have. That said, with regard to mentors, I think in general there's a little bit of confusion about what having a mentor means. And I think there's a dated philosophy about it, about having one person who sort of helps you along your career trajectory. When I have found, and I see it with young women in my office and also in my industry, that you can have a group of women, like a kitchen cabinet, that women who you feel comfortable with that you can go to for a variety of issues. So not just one, because I'm often approached by someone who I may know even just casually, you know, can we meet? Can you be a mentor? And there's no relationship there. And I know Nicole can speak to this very well because she talks about this a lot. The idea that we have to have a relationship in order for me to be invested in your career and you be invested in mine. And so you don't necessarily have to focus on having one person who's going to help you and rear you and guide you, so much as having people along the way who you can, you know, pick their brains. And you shouldn't be shy about picking their brains. That's someone, when I see someone asking me questions about my career, my experiences, I feel like there's someone who's genuinely curious and smart enough to know, ask the right questions. And so I encourage people to just not focus on one person, look around and take on as many as you can.
Well, that's so, Nicole, do you want to add on to that about the difference between thinking about mentors versus sponsors, and there's a role for both of them?
Yeah, absolutely. And a sponsor relationship is more under my wing. Let me, help to facilitate introductions, learning. It's just a more formalized relationship. Whereas I absolutely agree with Leah. Mentorship, that can happen walking down the hall when you're asking someone, hey, did you read that article this morning on, LinkedIn today? And how did you feel about that? Like, mentorship is what's happening on the Citi Connect group and within the Citi Connect group. It's, this is not something that has to be so intensive and onerous in feeling. This is about sharing perspectives and opinions and advice and learning from one another, and the sort of the reciprocal element of mentorship being A, very important, and B, I think for young women understanding that they have something to offer and that they should be offering something, that in order to get fully something out of the mentorship relationship, it behooves you to find something to offer, and whether it be your ability to help manage her photos, using Pinterest, like whatever talent you have, bring it to the fore. Don't be afraid or intimidated thinking that you have nothing to offer, because you do.
Just to carry on that point, in fact, I was talking to a colleague last week who said, let's get rid of the word mentor and think about resources to remove some of the stratification, because we all have something to give. Pamela, I'd like to come back to you, because you talk with women's networking circles of women in their 20s and 30s, but also 50s and 60s. Did you talk to any cross-generational circles? And what are you finding?
Well, it's interesting because most of the circles I found are based in trust and loyalty and true friendship. So for those bonds to really gel, women need to have some shared experiences. They need to be able to look each other in the eye and say, yes, I've been there, I get where you're going. So what I found is most of the groups are within either, they bring together women from different industries, but they're either all the same age or around the same level of experience. So they can be highly, highly strategic. But where I see the generations coming together, and I think there's a massive explosion that's going to occur in the next decade, is in the funding space. What's happening is now there are enough women at the top who've worked hard and earned their own money and are willing to take risks on behalf of other women. And that involves mentoring, certainly, which it always has, but now it involves money too. And that's new. That's never happened before. That's happening at the same moment in history where there's a massive crop of young women who are launching their own companies. So there's a need at the bottom, and there's a lot of money at the top, and those two groups are coming together. And so what you increasingly find is these young women, I think partly they don't feel the same sort of oppression that women have felt in previous decades, or any, in fact, because they have these older female mentors, these backers, these women who are really behind them. And I think to Nicole's point, these young women are bringing to the table a whole set of resources that the older women don't have. They have moxie, they have technological know-how. The mentoring doesn't go just one way. The older women are amazed when they sponsor or mentor these younger women at what they gain in return. So that's how the generations are really coming together.
Andrea, I'd love to get you to weigh in here.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen such excitement, enthusiasm from people, not just across the country, but honestly around the world, that have started forming circles. We call them lead-in circles, about 8 to 10 people. And generally they're peer groups because, as she was saying, you do want to have some sort of shared experience. There's also a confidentiality aspect, and people are going to be more open when they know that their stories aren't going to be told around town. And so by virtue of sharing what everyone's going through and hearing other people's experiences, these young women are able to go back in the workplace and tackle those things that they might have been afraid of. We've also seen circles cropping up with men, how they can support women at home. And even we've gotten inquiries about fathers trying to help their daughters. And we decided that having them in the same room as they were doing the sharing probably wouldn't work because the girls wouldn't be as open if their dads were in the room, but we were finding creative ways that, the dads could pass on, educational information to the girls. So I do think that people are, binding together, whether it's talking about at the dinner table or something more formalized with a circle, and trying to share experiences and stories so that you can learn from each other.
That's great. So when we polled the members of our Connect group on LinkedIn about what they viewed as their biggest roadblock to success, what we heard was self-doubt. Still, a sense of, insecurities being the primary roadblock before we can move forward. So I'm sure, like me, all of you joining us today have had to face your fears, at least once in your career. So I'd love to get each of you to offer a tip on what you would advise our viewers to do. How can they overcome that sense of insecurity, push through their fear to move forward? Nicole, would you kick us off?
Yeah, I was having this conversation the other day with a young woman friend, and it's what worked for me was picturing that end game. It gave me a sense of urgency. It allowed me to get over this fear, which is inevitable. It's just going to happen. It's part of the course, like Leah said, in terms of asking for the promotion. It's like recognizing this is going to be hard. It's hard because it's good. It's hard because it's meaningful. It's hard because you're growing and changing. That's what hard is. And, I think what's harder is to imagine yourself at 60 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old, and not having fulfilled those dreams, not having tried, your best. And I think for women, really, and this is interesting, we see this all the time, it's, instead of feeling like you need to be perfectly prepared to ask for the raise or to take the risk or, to ask for a mentorship, just try your hardest. Excellence being your level of standard instead of perfection, is just infinitely prepare yourself as much as you can and then go. Nobody's perfectly prepared, ever. You'd sit on the couch forever.
I agree. Hey, Leah, how about you?
In general, I often get asked this question, and, people sometimes stop by my office before they're about to ask for something big just to get comfortable with asking, to just get in the mindset of like, here's how I want to say it. What do you think? And I think that's good. I think doing a dry run is great with your friend, with your partner, with whatever, but it gets you comfortable using the language even, because sometimes even that in and of itself is an obstacle. But I would also remember that, I think a lot about, for example, Sheryl Sandberg's 60 Minutes interview, and I was astounded to learn in that time that she herself didn't negotiate with Facebook when she took on that job. And her husband said, "Are you crazy? There's not a man on earth that would interview for a job like that without negotiating." And so I would say, know that you're not alone. Know that this is a hump that we all still have a lot of overcome. But if you get into the mindset that you don't walk into an interview situation, whether it's your first job, your second job, your 10th job, by default, your position should be to ask for more. Now, that's not to say you should ask for twice as much as the job is offering, but you should be in the habit of asking for more, because it's like a muscle. It has to get exercised. And the more you exercise it, the more comfortable it gets asking. So, do the dry runs and know that there's value in just assuming that you can walk in and ask for more. And the worst case scenario is that you get turned down, and that companies themselves never think as much about these things as you do when you go home. At the end of the day, people tend to leave things at the door. The boss, the colleagues, everybody tends to leave things at the door. So don't overthink it. Really, don't overthink it, because nobody else is.
Yeah.
And that's so true. You have to just let go, and also know when to bring your A game to the table, and when is a B plus good enough. Pamela, what about you?
Well, I just wrote a book about this, so I feel very passionate about it. But I have seen an incredible, I think, recipe for success replicated in these little groups all around the country. Like I said, most of them have no more than 10 women, but in aggregate they number in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of women nationwide rather, and they're doing the same thing. They're getting together for friendship, but also for learning and strategy and tips. And what happens when you put a bunch of dynamic, motivated women together in a room and they form what I'm calling a stiletto network is they exchange ideas, they help each other, but they also end up doing business together. Because when you're looking for a job or trying to expand your business or trying to do a deal, 5 people, 6 people coming to the table and thinking about that and opening their Rolodexes, if not their wallets, on your behalf, well, that's a lot more effective than you sitting in a room. But I think so that women can get over that sort of fear of the ask, it also really helps when you know each other at a pretty deep level. Because you know that if you're the one asking today, you're going to be the one giving tomorrow. These relationships are not by nature transactional, and yet they've generated a huge money trail. So I would say, you know, grab 10 of your friends from different industries, or, you know, not your friends necessarily, but people who are friends of friends, people you don't know, but who can expand your horizons and increase your sphere of influence. Get them together for a regular dinner. Build a group.
And I think to that point, and not just people that you know, but look for people with strengths that complement your own.
Yeah.
And with diverse experiences and backgrounds. So you're not putting blinders on, but people who could challenge you and really help you broaden your own perspective and keep expanding your network.
100%.
Okay. Andrea, do you want to share one of your
We've been posing a question. We actually put out a video about this week to recent college graduates. The question of what would you do if you weren't afraid? And sometimes when you pose it that way, it's easier to look at because instead of thinking about your fears, you think about what the goal would be or the dream would be if you didn't have those fears. And that helps sometimes put things into perspective and get rid of the clutter that's around all of it.
So look at the glass as half full rather than half empty, and focus on the possibilities, or else we can let all of our self-doubts turn opportunities into obstacles because we're not breaking through. So if I were to recap some of the things that I thought that you shared, I love that practice. Constantly make the ask. So you're just getting in the habit of it. Lean in, but also link out. So keep building your network. Raise your hand, but also lend a hand to others. And as a wise woman once said, it takes a village, so you don't have to go it alone, but have this network and invest in that network and leverage them so that you aren't alone and that you're constantly moving forward. So I know we have about 2 to 3 minutes left, so quick rapid fire round. One, if each of you can take just a few seconds, the best piece of career advice you ever heard and who gave it to you. So Nicole.
Oh, I always have to go first. Okay. It was a quote I read, and the quote is, the price of self-destiny is never cheap, and in certain circumstances, it's unthinkable, but to achieve the marvelous, it's precisely the unthinkable that must be thought. So at the end of the day, think really big, unthinkable thoughts. You know, that's how the marvelous becomes marvelous.
Andrea.
Funny enough, mine was a boss about 10 years ago said, don't make a decision based on fear. And that stuck with me, and now it's coming back.
Wonderful. Leah?
Best advice I ever got was never, walk around work unsure of where you stand with your boss. So if you ever have any doubt about how you're doing, ask, how am I doing? It's okay, and generally speaking, if you have a great boss, she or he's going to be very candid with you and tell you exactly how you're doing, which is what you want to know along the way. Okay,
and Pamela, last word goes to you.
2 weeks ago, a wonderful woman told me at lunch, go with your gut, but hire a good lawyer. So, she said, I was sort of at a crossroads thinking about right now, like even where do I want to go? What do I want to do next, right? I just completed a big project. And, in some ways it's like a choose your own adventure book. Where are you going to go? And she said, look, you know where you're going to go. You know what to do. Just make sure that all the boxes are checked. Hire a good lawyer.
That's good.
That's great. And I will tell you, mine was my first manager when I came into the financial services industry. For my performance review, the first question he said to me was, are you happy? And all I kept thinking of, why does he care if I'm happy? And then I figured it out, because he believed we spend too much time, in the workplace, at work, to only do it for prestige, power, or money. then if it's not giving us a broader sense of purpose or fulfillment, that we should find something else so that, you know, we could really follow our passion. And that's been my guiding principle. So on that note, I want to thank all of you for joining us today and all of the viewers who tuned in. We'd love to continue to answer any questions that you may not have had the opportunity to ask. So please visit us at womenandco.com for the full survey results, and join us on Connect on LinkedIn to continue the conversation. You can find us at www.linkedin.com /womenconnect.